Hello gamers, welcome. Today I want to present you 10 tips for invaders, mostly to the fact that on the 29th of June we are going to have the Steam Summer Sale, which ultimately going to lead to plenty of new gamers coming to the community of Elden Ring. That being said, before I'm gonna go through the list of the tips, this is sponsor of today's video, Opera GX. Today I was asked to show you newly implemented mods feature. By scrolling down you can enter the GX store that's full of various themes, and one of them is medieval one. You can install it with one click of your mouse. You can immediately notice the change in the color palette and background music. Opera GX is rather known for its rich customization abilities, but with this new mods feature you can change the entire browsing experience with just one click. Another important feature of this browser is GX Control. You can manage the resources of your computer with plenty of easy to use and accessible sliders, so your browser won't affect your gaming experience in a negative way like it can with other browsers. Last but not least, switching to Opera GX is as simple as using their integrated import tool, so you can transfer all your precious data from the previous browser. And that's about it. Honestly, great browser, give it a try, link in the description. Knowing the map and especially knowing the tricks on the maps that you are currently on is definitely something very valuable. We are currently in Lurnia, example of this tree. You can jump on it, here on the top, and then from here you can also get further on the another rooftop. It is very helpful to learn about how to use such small map details that just allows you for legitimate advantage. Just now, because of that, I can swap to the bow and I can apply the pressure to, in this case, invaders in my world, yeah, as I am currently hosting. Well, they can shoot me back, so I definitely have to be kind of cautious of this. But yeah. You can even go further on the top, wait for the co-invader if there is no co-invaders in my world, or just straight up apply the pressure for a while, waste their healing supplies and so on, yeah? The another cool thing about invasions is that you can set up the traps. You see, we have like, in this case, two gamers over here, one in the open. If we are going to use Rain of Arrows on Mudkeep, well, the spread is quite freaking huge, isn't it? So, this Ash of War actually working in the way it makes so the arrows flies off the sky, but if there is some sort of the rooftop above the opponent, the arrow's going to fly down sooner. As you can see, that was, yet again, comparison. Oh. This is the spread. Quite wide, and also like the travel distance takes a while, and this is here our gamer had that small ledge above his head. It was enough to just make it so the arrows would fly down faster. Okay, so another thing is tech. So here our opponent is utilizing weapon that has better neutral, like just out of the running attacks and out of the normal attacks, he has kind of the advantage. But here you have a tech called wave dashing that is just all about the utilizing the in-game buffer, which I have explained in separated tutorials, so you're definitely supposed to check that one out. But ultimately I want to show you how much different your neutral game is if you have knowledge about how to utilize such tech. You see, like, it's actually so much better. You can apply so much more pressure. Otherwise, you'd be forced to use just these neutral attacks that are not that great. And eventually maybe some running attacks that also, like, without mixing them around, you cannot really do that well with them. They are way more predictable than anything else my opponent is doing with his setup that is just better in the regular neutral game. There is also plenty of other stuff, like for example animation blending. By shaking around like this, you can ultimately just make it so that it's harder for your opponent to react. Another tech that is worth mentioning, my opponent is sprinting with exactly same speed like I do. So ultimately, unless I'm gonna use some sort of the environment and so on, they are always on me. It is just so hard to get away from someone that just regularly sprinting after you. But here you have another tech called bunny hops. Bunny hops not only allow you to change the directions on the fly, you can just jump over your opponent, change directions very quickly, which allows you to eventually lose the track, gain the distance, and so on, yeah? On top of that, if someone gonna try to hit you with the running attack, the bottom part of your body is actually in the iframe. So, yeah, ultimately, bunny hop is another important tip that is worth considering, and overall jump techs are very important in the open world PvP. So I have actually another video about that, the link will be in the description, and yeah, I strongly recommend to check that one out. You have access to 6 flasks of Crimson Tears, and eventually you can get the refills if you are gonna be killing the blue and gold phantoms. But that's about it. Sometimes you just cannot afford to lose these Crimson Tears. So instead, you rather want to go for passive healing. This is Icon Shield, and this is Blessed Dew Talisman, which are your very, very good friends. Essentially, if you're going to look at my HP, I am right now regenerating 5 HP per second. Right now I got back to full. Let's actually lose some HP. Another source of healing that you can utilize in this game is, for example, Warming Stone. It's actually going to speed up your healing by quite a bit, and on top of that, you can increase your healing even more by utilizing such Ash of War, like, for example, the Holy Ground. Stacked with all of that, my healing speed is through the roof. You have plenty of talismans that straight up increasing your stats. For example, this one increasing your faith by 5. Also Marika's Sword Seal, that one increases plenty of stuff. In my case, faith is the most important thing, as because of these 2 talismans, I will be able to use the Black Flame Protection. Something that I normally just wouldn't be able to use. I use both of these, take off my talismans, and my physical defenses right now are on 57%. In my case, I am saving like 10 levels just because I'm using the swap. Alright, so another thing is ashes. For example, the ones that hit through the wall. You have plenty of ashes that are practically either mandatory or very, very, very good in invasions. So, Endure. Endure is not only increasing our defenses for like a 3.5 second by a lot, it also gives you an effect of being completely movable. You cannot get staggered, you cannot receive any sort of stun. It's essentially very, very good Ash in situations like, for example, let's say someone is aiming at some sort of the small choke point, and you just need to get from one side to the another. You can just use Endure and run through the choke point just like that. Another Ash is loved by everyone, VHS. It is definitely better to have Bloodhound Step that has quite the travel distance rather than relying on the rolls, because rolls essentially are way shorter, especially if you are not light rolling. And also, like, dodge is sharing the button with sprint. Essentially it leads to the situation that trying to dodge the attacks of the opponents that are sprinting after you, especially if there is multiple of them, you rather want to use VHS instead, because you can just look at what is going on, you see incoming attack, and you can just, yeah, VHS around. It's just easier. It is just easier, without a doubt. The another thing is that you always supposed to be aware of meta. Elden Ring is still action RPG game that is more reliant on the actual statistics than any other Souls game ever created. So ultimately, if you are going to be bozo that goes with freaking flails against... We have Mudkip here that is using dual spears. Let me actually show you how it is going to look like in case if I am going to try to actually outplay him. Yep, it doesn't look good, no? So here is the thing. It is possible that I could potentially win that fight. But the amount of effort that I have to put in to win with the flail when my opponent is using powerful setup like dual spears is just fucking enormous. Especially in situation when you have like multiple people that using very strong setups. You are not fucking winning unless you are going to do some miracle play. Overall setups and using the proper builds is just that important, yeah? I mean, like, you see some dude that is just running around with freaking Urumi or something like that, yeah? Just get yourself your favorite claymore and, yeah, play on the equal field, yeah? Both weapons are relatively off meta, so yeah, you can just have fun. But if you see that, or this, then, yeah, that just... My strong suggestion is do not play around. Elden Ring is great experience overall, especially if it works. But yeah, the game is really broken. So this is, for example, chainsaw glitch. At some point, you're going to find someone that is going to be good enough to either execute this glitch or they are going to be just scripting, and yeah. Being aware of broken elements of the game gives you opportunity to just, at least to some extent, counter them. Alright, so here we see the gamer is actually chainsawing. He just killed my teammate. I can just throw him off the chainsaw. He can't like sprint, he just can like regularly move around. So I have the golem arrows currently, yeah? If I'm gonna shoot beneath him, he is ultimately going to lose the ability to chainsaw. So that's the one way so you can deal with that, yeah? Be aware of glitches, especially the most common ones, the most detrimental ones. Just realize they do exist. It's just important to have that knowledge. Blocking in this game does exist. In case if you're on Steam, you can just click on the view players and then you're going to see people from the recent sessions. If I am going to go to the profile of, for example, Sami over here that just joined my session, and I am going to block them, gonna block all the communication, they won't be able to connect to me again. Here is the thing. You can use it to your advantage in situation when, for example, you have a host that is constantly resummoning the same people over and over. You can just block connection to them, and it's going to cause so the host won't be able to summon the same person again, as long as you are in their world. Considering that, sadly, the game is hella broken when it comes to the matchmaking systems, it is actually worth to sometimes do something like that, because yeah, like certain hosts are just absolutely abusing systems to its full potential, turning off the Thunderstone for the sake of to not allow you to have the co-invader. So ultimately, until this type of stuff is not fixed, then yeah, you sometimes have to rely on being a cheater yourself. This is just how it is. It's also worth to mention that Elden Ring is actually not a MMORPG game. As you can see, I have a lot of the weapons repeated once over here. And these weapons are actually essentially spawned by a cheat engine. People very often that play PvP, they are not making the builds manually. They are using the third-party programs and so on for the sake of to get themselves the utilities, to get themselves the multiple copies of the weapons and so on. And just like that, they are making their inventories and then they are participating in the PvP. If you want to play Dark Souls games or like Elden Ring in the most fair and purest way imaginable. If you want to farm all the consumables and so on, you can of course do that, but just be aware that vast majority of players that are dedicated to the PvP either have the safe scammed drops or they straight up just spawned the items themselves with the cheat engine and so on. So yeah, that's just how this game works. Yeah. Last but not least, very important tip. This is Steam P2P. It displays ping of the participants in the session of yours. It's very important to have more or less understanding of what is the ping of yours to your opponent, because the dynamic of the game completely changes depending on the latency. In case of, for example, consoles, if you cannot actually get yourself information about the ping, or on the PC, if you cannot really get this type of info for whatever reason, maybe you just cannot use Steam P2P and so on, you can always throw dagger on your opponent, assuming it's going to hit, and you can more or less tell what is the difference in time between when the dagger is going to hit and when it's supposed to hit visually. So by gaining the experience at some point, you can actually tell what is the ping of yours to your opponent more or less, and therefore adapt to the situation. If someone is, for example, lagging like crazy, you can get yourself, let's say, something like weapon with the poisonous mist. It's going to allow you to apply the status effects through the rolls, for example. Yeah, if you are going to use this setup, the dual great spears are very powerful. Yeah, but because of the way how latency works like in this game, they are getting worse and worse the more lag between you and your opponent actually you have. And it comes to the fact that the more of the ping you have to your opponents, the harder it is to hit them, because spamming rolls allows you to overlap iframes. In fact, even something like 80 plus ping makes it so like the effect is already noticeable. When you are reaching like the ping of 200, the game completely changes, and playing it normally, trying to roll catch people and so on, it becomes kind of out of the question at this point. And yeah, instead you are playing the status effect game. This is just how the game works, and you can deal with that in multiple different ways. You can block people around, yeah. You can just apply the status effect to them. You can try to get yourself a weapon that is very good at trading, and yeah, you can just trade with other people that have high latency. But what is important is overall to just have the knowledge. You need to understand that, okay, this is my ping to this guy. What can I do about it? Yeah, what type of setup I can use essentially to be efficient in the invasion. That's what's important. And well, yeah, that's going to be about it seems like. We covered all the gameplay related tips that I had prepared for today, and yeah, thanks for watching.
Riposo! Hello, gamer. Memories broken, rhythm goes unspoken.